There are hundreds of John Locks in the phone book.
My name is John Locke. I live in Saratoga, California.
John Robert Locke.
My name is John Locke.
Who I'm named after? I don't know. I would guess an uncle. Nobody ever told me.
I am the great-great-great-great-grandson of the philosopher John Locke. No, I'm just kidding.
But of course, we're talking about the John Locke, the man whose theories in education became a kind of guide for parents and teachers for hundreds of years. The man who publicly criticized slavery when it was unfashionable to do so. The man who spent half a decade in exile for his ideas.
John Locke was one of the two greatest English minds of the late 17th century, or maybe three if you want to throw in Thomas Hobbes along with Sir Isaac Newton.
Jack Rakove is a professor at Stanford. He teaches history, political science, and American studies. And he has a shelf in his office devoted entirely to biographies of John Locke.
Yeah, Locke has a kind of bony face. He's got, his hair is worn, was fashionable 17th century. His hair is a bit on the lanky, somewhat, strewn side. He sort of conveys, a look of intellectual engagement, not a study in high court fashion. But you look at him and I'd like to think you see an active mind.
John Locke was born in 1632, a tumultuous time in British history. There were conflicts between the monarchy and Parliament, conflicts between Protestants, Catholics, and Anglicans, and Locke was born into a radical household. That is, his father was a radical Calvinist.
You can see Locke wrestling with a whole variety of positions on a whole array of issues. For starters, one could say Locke's Christianity.
Locke later became a Unitarian. He attended Oxford, where hallway conversations were actually in Latin. He studied logic, metaphysics, and medicine. He falls in with a crowd of men who criticize the monarchy and question absolutism.
So Locke is flirting with resistance, potentially revolutionary ideas, which were quite radical.
Fast forward to the 1680s. Locke gets involved with some armed revolutionaries plotting to kill King Charles II.
Locke appears to have got involved in the Rye House plot, which would have been a virtual coup d'etat against the Stuart kings. And then when that plot collapses, he wisely thought it was a good idea to absent himself to Holland, where he lives in political exile for 5 or 6 years until he goes back to England after the Glorious Revolution has taken place.
In 1688, William and Mary take the throne. Locke actually returns to England on the same boat that reunites Mary with her husband. With all his plotting and moving around, Locke stayed a bachelor his entire life.
Locke never married, though he seems to have fallen in love at a couple points, but he was single all his life. He was, at one point, he was in love with the daughter of a prominent Neoplatonist.
That woman's name was Damaris Cudworth, a philosopher in her own right. She and Locke exchanged love letters under the pseudonyms Philoclea and Philander. But then Cudworth married someone else. She and her former flame remained friends. Locke became her permanent house guest. He actually died in her house in 1704. For Philosophy Talk, I'm Caitlin Esch.